Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
World of Outlaws Dirt Racing is available now. Download your copy today.
Thank you for joining us for what is the season finale of a very, very exciting season of Formula Vee Australia E-Series. We've been all across Australia and some other circuits with some of Australia's best Formula Vee racers and communities dueling it out nationally here on iRacing in the E-Series. And it's got to end somewhere. anywhere more exciting, more renowned than Mount Panorama Bathurst, I don't think you'll find. So we're very, very excited to see how it plays out and who will be our inaugural Formula Vee Australia E-Series champion as well. Lots to happen, lots of racing to happen. We'll have every minute here live on SimSpeed TV. David Haynes here with Scott Rankin, Jay Kennedy on production with the cameras. Lots to look at, lots to talk about. What are you most excited for, Scott?
Honestly, can they make it through the first lap? Can they survive? It's been a season-long spectacular. It's had its ultimate moments of side-by-side battling. It's had its ultimate moments of drama. It's really been, in all honesty, probably one of the most interesting sim series I've ever had the joys of commentating. What am I most excited for tonight? What moments a place like this can conjure. It's filled with drama. It's filled with history. The ground literally oozes. Well, maybe earlier this year it was a little bit oozy, maybe mud and the like. But no, tonight it's going to ooze with talent, with Formula V's and tiny little engines seeing where they can put themselves amongst the pecking order in tonight's final round.
I'm not sure in Australia it needs this introduction, but it deserves it. It's Mount Panorama, a couple hours west of Sydney in Bathurst, and a signature piece of Australian real estate.
I mean, yeah, that it is, and look at the mountain, look at all the surrounds. It's surrounded by a large deal of farming land, industrial land. There's people that live here. They live every day of their life along Conrod Strait. You know, it's just life for people in the area of Bathurst. But it's
shout out Robbo.
Kilometers of track that. If you don't know this place, then I think you're probably living in the wrong country.
So, of course, where's the action going to be for Formula V's? Everywhere. That's how they work. They are so evenly matched. They are very slipstream dependent on these full-size circuits. So it's on the pit straight. It's on Mountain Straight. Maybe even make some passes across the top of the hill. We'll wait and see. But, of course, Conrod Straight, you can pass someone, be passed back, pass them again, all before you make it to the chase. And certainly at these high-speed circuits, the Formula V's are pack racing specialists. This is what our championship looks like, though. Coming into this final round, John Merritt is up top from Jason Cutts, Lee Partridge, Glenn Cito-Riddle, Kyle Ridley, Alexander Newton, Trevor Hearn, Cameron Edwards, Ray Oliver, and Sean McKenzie as our top 10. That's looking pretty good for John Merritt, Scott.
Yeah, it's a pretty handy lead, and to be perfectly honest, I think he'll be comfortable. He'll probably be looking for a consistent result in the first two races, and then after that, it'll probably be a little bit of a celebration in race number 3. But look up and down that field, tied, level peggings for second place. Look how close it is right throughout the field. 2 points for 6th and 7th place, you know. It's up and down the field. It's been a whole number of drivers have picked up wins and picked up great results throughout the season. So to be perfectly honest, you know, any of those point standings can still be shuffled around at the tail end of tonight. To be perfectly honest with you, Dave, I'm wondering how long it takes before we start heading across the top of the mountain to narrow-bodied cars, air-cooled engines, the uniqueness that is this motor race, and is everything that we're looking at here tonight. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be chaos the first time across the top. These guys have got 5 minutes left to practice to sort of figure out how far they can go, whether they can go side by side right across the top. And, well, I think there's only one statement. Who has the cojones to leave the door open? Who has the cojones to park their car? And what a gap is across the top.
You have absolutely no doubt that it will be must-watch viewing, however it transpires, with very, very long straights here of Mountain Straight, Conrod Straight, and Slipstream is worth an incredible amount there. But then it is so difficult to pass, to race safely across that top section of the mountain. John Merritt showing us a little bit how it's going to work, trying to carry as much momentum as possible through Griffin's Bend, because then it is sharply uphill, and he's almost bogged down in third gear. The speed you leave Griffin's Bend with, you carry all the way up gear towards the cutting, or he's going to keep it in third. Interesting to see. First and second gears, of course, from the road car gearbox. Very good for getting your Volkswagen Beetle a hill start from a red light, not necessarily racing gear. And I had a great question. Well, I thought it was a great question about the gearbox in these cars that I posed to one of the Formula V competitors recently, which was I was trying to get my head around. If you flip the engine from being behind the gearbox to in front of the gearbox, how are all of the forward gears still forward gears? And apparently you swap over one of the things in the differential and it makes sure that all the forward gears are still forward gears.
Yeah. That's how mechanics work. Didn't you know, Dave?
Oh, I didn't know. That's why I had to ask, and now I know.
You're well versed in physics. Look, yeah.
I was well versed enough to know that if you didn't do something, or you were going to have one forward gear and 4 reverse gears.
What do you think would make better racing? 1 forward gear and 4 reverse gears, or the other way around, 4 forward gears and 1 reverse gear? I discovered that the Porsche Mission R recently, actually. That's the Rockingham road course. That was a blast of fun. That was 1 forward gear. Anyway, I'm interested to see Matthew Harriott. If we actually have a look at the Zoom feed, I'm pretty sure we noticed that the last time that he was out here as well, he's in a motion. And the thing about that motion rig is I've been watching him already. He's going up and down the hill. He's just spun at the cutting. And the rig rocks itself around. It's a little bit of a wild ride. I think this is going to be a unique opportunity for all of us at home to sort of experience what goes on from a driver's eye view. This is about as close as you can really get without actually getting out there and getting amongst it yourself. So that'll be something to keep our eyes on here tonight, Dave.
Yeah, a lot going on in that shot, from the pedals to the socks to the McLarens on the wall.
And having a chuckle at somebody as well in the background. He's clearly on Discord hanging out with some buddies. You saw him. He was actually looking up at across the top of the screen. So I wonder whether or not he's got some overlays in that VR headset. I've actually never been able to... The closest to VR racing was a different game on console. It wasn't quite the same thing. So, do you have VR at home, Dave? What do you race with at home? What's a David Haynes?
I don't race. Not lately. But I've driven a bit of iRacing in VR across various different setups, and normally you see drivers with their sort of they're focused directly forward, but if they want to look at things that are easy to glance at on a screen setup, like, oh, was that an off track? Where's my relative box and all of those other things, you do see them sort of looking around like Harriott just was.
It's a unique thing. I don't think I could be wearing goggles like that for an extended period of time. Quite heavy. But normally when you've got a racing helmet on, it's obviously a lot easier. It's a lot more... Whoa! There we go! Bet you that was a wild ride. Continues on. Oh, my word.
Yeah, I think that car's done. And he's discovered as much, but certainly that's the great challenge of this circuit, isn't it? That famous and commonly blind run from Skyline down through the S's, the Dipper, and to the Elbow. And if one driver gets it wrong, it's so difficult for any of the drivers behind to avoid it. We saw that just then in practice, let alone in racing conditions that are coming up. They're going into qualifying now. And
got to run a little bit of an extended qualifying session here too, Dave. Did you notice the best times from that practice session? 2:46. So it's an extra 40 seconds on what a V8 supercar would be doing around the mountain. Question is, what can you do with 40? How long is it going to take to head down the entirety of Conrod Straight? It's got to be like nearly a minute from the Elbow to the chase, right?
Well,
I'll get the stopwatch out. I'm going to time it.
It's a bit over a kilometre, and they're doing a bit over 150 k's an hour, and that's about as far as my numbers can go. I reckon 30 to 45 seconds. I reckon 30 to 45 seconds. We're looking at Matthew Walker, and he's got all of the flashy overlays for his zoom as well, because he is doing world's greatest shave there, and that's a decent total. But the cold tyres on his outlap for qualifying. Oh, don't give us a wave. Give us a sad face. But yeah, certainly the cold tyres are very difficult at the start of races, and obviously at the start of qualifying. What it isn't is a cold track at 43 Celsius.
Oh, Matthew Walker. He's been one of the characters of the series. He's at least shown up every week and been on the Zoom call and having fun with it. Hopefully, Matt, the next time that we bring you up here tonight, that's you'll at least be going in the right direction. Hopefully making an overtake. We'll see if we can get a shot or something like that. But how about the winds too? 6.5 kilometers from the southeast. So that's going to be heading up Conrod Straight backwards. Whoop, I missed my opportunity to start the timer. So we'll add another 5 seconds? 10 seconds? I'm keen. I'm going to find out how long this Formula V takes to come down here from
Okay. Well, that makes it a bit of a headwind heading down Conrod Straight here. I think, no, it doesn't. Nope, other way around. Be a bit of a tailwind here, a little bit of a headwind up Mountain Straight. It's just absolutely flat out though at the sort of VMAX of this car until you eventually spot where's your braking zone into the chase. We're on board with Sean McKenzie, Macca as apparently they call him. I don't think I've ever called him that, but they do, so you can. And he's about to start his first of just the 2 flying laps. It is a big question of risk versus reward in any car here, but especially in qualifying. You've only got the 2 attempts, and a mistake on lap 1 would mean starting from the back of the grid, wouldn't it? You wouldn't have time to get around for a second lap.
Yeah, effectively by the time, particularly if it's late on in the lap, if it's nice and early in the lap, you actually might get the opportunity to get there. It was about 35 seconds was from the elbow all the way to the apex of the chase. So there you go. A fun fact. That's an eternity. 35 seconds of just sitting there and going, oh, what am I going to do? If I'm going to put the nose in here, where am I going to be drafting? That's nearly long enough, by the way, that if there was one train of drafting cars, they could pass the other train. The other train could dip back in behind the first train and then probably draft back past them again. So, oh man, it's going to be tough here tonight. We saw the Formula Ford action from the Bathurst 12 hour actually in real life earlier on. Right as they crested one of the hills on Mountain Straight, 2 cars locked wheels and straightened the fence for the race lead. And it's one of those ones where you've got to position your car. You've got to think about what am I attempting to achieve by putting my car in this position. And it takes me back to NASCAR. It takes me back to IndyCar. In the way that if you've got to run, generally you've got to take it somewhere. That's the drafting pack mentality. So in order to really do that, you've got to be thinking about where you're going to make the move, maybe 3 or 4 corners. And I think probably this first race here tonight, it's actually going to be about assessing who can I overtake, how often can I make those overtakes, and how much can I draft. Because to be perfectly honest, I didn't see a lot of draft packs during the practice session either. There wasn't really too many cars sort of grouped up. So I think lap 1 of race 1 was very, very exploratory, and I strongly hope that our drivers treat it as such mentally.
Yes, indeed. It's going to be interesting with 3 races.
Starting for win race 1, start from 20th in race 2 at Bathurst. If there's one track I don't probably want to start 20th in a Formula V, it's probably the Mountain.
We're about to see our first timed laps. There's a few other drivers as well that roundabout similar placement on their laps to Sean McKenzie. And of course, Formula V's often very state-based clubs and racing by the nature of the budgets required, etc. But it's great then to have Formula Vee Australia E-Series Makes it very, very easy for Queenslanders to race against Victorians, to race against South Australians, and a lot from WA as well. And of course, yeah, we can all have our little state prides, if we will. There comes the first times. Not a real surprise to see John Merritt up top from Watts, Riddle, Wall, and then Partridge. I think there is a lot of drivers, though, that will have held back on their first flying lap and really just wanted to have a time on the board that can now try to attack on this second flying lap, and hopefully with a little bit more confidence, a little bit more tyre pressure, and also the track appears to have cooled a tiny bit. There are some clouds going around.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see whether or not that's got a huge deal of input. Best time from practice was actually Brodie Watts at the 2:46.485. He's actually half a second off of that so far, so I wonder whether or not there was a little bit of a toe on that. Wouldn't have needed to have been much for Brodie Watts, but Jason Cutt's about to cross the start-finish line as well. We've got 3 minutes left, which means basically if you're not starting your second lap right now, you've got about 10 seconds from now to start that lap, but you're not getting that second lap in. Actually, no, because, so you've got 10 seconds from now to start that second lap. So Ben Breyer here, he's not going to get his second lap in. So we better hope this first one counts, because the second one's not going to matter.
Oh dear, definitely some suspension damage there for him. Challenging pit entry in the best of circumstances here. Drivers ought not need it during the race, though, and I do want to talk about Jason Cutts, because I've just noticed the new livery that he's got on for this round. Very, very important to him. So there is Jason Cutts' new livery. Got the black nose cone on. It says Fight MND on the side. He's unfortunately very recently lost his mother to that, and I noticed that this is a tribute livery to what I see she used to race in Formula V's as well. So a lot going on here for Jason Cutts, and a very, very touching tribute as well. It's a family that's been on all sorts of levels very, very involved with Formula V racing in Australia. So I'm sure there's a lot of other people touched by this as well. And you can see that's his mum on the right, and this is obviously a tribute livery he's running tonight there as well.
Yeah, and it's super important to remember the contributions of family. You know, obviously we've seen over the years drivers step up from Formula V and other formulas, and quite often it goes unrecognised that the amount of work that a lot of their family members put in, and for the Cutts family, you know, quite important to them. You know, fight motor neuron disease, and we wish Jason all the best tonight. He's out there repping the family, and we hope that they get their opportunity to celebrate the life of Lynn in the best possible way by celebrating alongside good mates, and also, you know, a family of the racetrack, but also the family of friends that you build around motor racing, and the Cutts family have been such an integral part of that. So, motor racing in Australia as well. So, good luck, Jason, and we'll see if you can finish in P2 in that championship. Remember, he's dead heated as well for P2 at the moment, so it's important to pick up some good points here tonight.
No time for him just yet. It looks like his first lap may have been invalidated, so with just 20 seconds left on the clock, very important that this lap counts for his qualifying, and it shoots him up from sort of 30th to about 9th. And a lot of our grid looking very locked in. Most of the drivers have completed their 2 laps. There's just a few more with a chance to sneak in. Phil Gardner, looks like he might have improved just fractionally, but that's the end of qualifying. Locks them in for race 1, 15 minutes, 15-minute race 2, and a 20-minute feature. So very short, sharp races around this, and looking like they're kind of going to be 6, 7, or 8 laps or so. Very few in the lap count, but they will be brimming with action, knowing how these Formula Vs are going to race across the top, but also up and down Mountain and Conrod Straights. This is the grid for race number 1. John Merritt has the pole. Championship leader, very dominant then in that qualifying, 4/10 clear of Brodie Watts. Sean McKenzie, Trevor Hearn, Glenn Riddle, and Ray Oliver is through to row 3, and it's a bumper grid because everyone wants to race here at Bathurst. Got Matthew Wall, Lee Partridge, Jason Cutts there in 9th, France Estabauer 10th, with Harriet in 11th and Kyle Ridley in 12th. And Tony Baker, Sam Chapman, Stephen Butcher, Alex Newton, Will Twining, and Nick Fisher to 18th place. Dean Hunt and Josh Burden 19th and 20th. Remembering that the result of this race gets a top 20 invert to set the grid of race number 2. You want to be inside of that top 20. Drew Beecher, Matthew Walker, Hayden Slattery, and Brendan Nealon then are going to be looking to race forward and gain positions in this one. And our last drivers with qualifying times are Phil Gardner and Patrick Harding. Some drivers without qualifying times that we expect to see maybe move forward. Reese Gardner, a race winner earlier on, and well, you can see the rest, some other names here that we might expect to have a chance at moving forward. 20 seconds to the race start, and always interesting with big grids here, part of the tail of the field wrapped around that final corner.
Yeah, and critically as well, 2 pit lane starts for this one for incidents at the previous rounds. That's Philip Gardner in the 37. I believe the other one was Mick Fisher in the 33. Indeed, yeah, it was Mick Fisher. So both of those grid spots will be left empty on the starting grid as these.
So for our final round, they get underway for race 1 of 3. Difficult to get the standing start sometimes in these Vs. Do you light up the rear tyres with that very short first gear? Do you maybe bog down a little bit? 3 wide, as you see there, through turn number 1 for John Merritt. It's a perfect start. Immediately, though, he's got to think about the draft train behind him of Brodie Watts, Sean McKenzie, Trevor Hearn, and Glenn Riddle. A little bit of a gap then to Ray Oliver, who you see there leading his own little pack in 6th place. Your top 5 would really, really like to get away, because look at how ferocious the slipstreaming is behind.
Yeah, have a look at the packs already starting to form. You know, you've got 5 car packs, 3 wide on the run up Mountain Straight into Griffin's Bend. They all feed back in a single file. Just about. Nobody wants to be caught on the outside of Griffin's, running high, wide, and over that curve. And chaos on the first lap. Yeah, not so far as they just about all make it up. Unfortunately, one driver facing in the wrong direction. It's Reese Gardner on at lap number 1, and something that was critical actually on that qualifying was that the 2 guys flying second in the championship at the moment was Lee Partridge and Jason Cutts. They were next to each other on the grid, and Partridge has got a much better getaway. He's up in the 6th.
Harriet also gained a bunch of spots into Griffin's Bend that time. You saw him go down the inside 3 wide, and it all worked out well in the end. That'd be France Estabauer we're looking backwards at from Kyle Ridley as they go across the top of the mountain for the first time. Here's where it starts to get very, very challenging. You could have a lot of speed, but you're not going to be able to pass someone from here until the elbow, and if they make a mistake, we've seen they'll just pile up like Aussie racing cars at Newcastle.
Yeah, that's it. It's all about patience. It's all about understanding. How can I get my car around this track? Is this a spot where I can slot that nose? Oh, there we go. There we go on lap number 1.
A lot of them getting out of that quite tidily, better than I would have expected. But that was a lot deeper in the field, and it's why qualifying was so important to get a qualifying time, because our top 15, top 20 cars or so have all made through that cleanly. It's those behind that might be damaged in our race number 1. This is almost what we expected to see. Rush hour traffic 2 wide as far as the eye can see from the crest and down towards the chase.
I'll tell you what, Sean McKenzie got down the inside at the kink, which put him on the outside for the chase, but he still got the job done on Glenn Riddell. I think that was Glenn Riddell just going, yep, look, I'm going to let this one happen. I want to stay attached to this pack. I really don't want to fight it. Was that a car around? Was that a car shooting left or right? No, it might have been
Stephen Butcher. Yep. Off at the later part of the chase. It's so tightly packed in the group for 6, though. Your top 5 are looking to get away a little bit. They're all single file, but single file they are not in the group behind us. Jason Cutts looks down the inside 3 wide, thinks very much better of it. Try to maximize his run up Mountain Straight, but it wasn't good. He got tagged from behind. Cutts is off the circuit, just avoids the wall. He's off in the grass, losing all of that momentum, and you need to be inside of the top 20 in this race 1 if you're a chance of a good result carrying forward into race 2 and race number 3. Side by side for the race lead, as you say.
The draft got done by Brody Watts. Got a really good launch off of Hell Corner and just sat there. Was in the perfect spot. So he might have actually been trying to set this one up. Now, though, John Merritt's looking for an overlap on the outside of the run up to the cutting. Wisely just going to settle. I think this is Merritt trying to set himself up. But deeper back in the pack, they're looking to go double file on the run up to the cutting. Isn't that a shot? Back down the hill as we will line ourselves up for the first replays of it.
So looking backwards just now at what happened to Jason Cutts, he was looking down the inside 3 wide, backed out of it, cost him some of the momentum, and he's just been tagged from behind as he was on the inside of 3 wide on the exit. Doesn't look like too much damage there.
I'm honestly going to say I think there was a little bit of gap whack involved with that one, but this will explain the incident on the first lap down at the Dipper. So 2 wide down in over the Bresses. Somebody's going to lose the rear end down here. I can just about feel it coming. Yep, there she goes. 57 machine, and at that point it's just everyone just piling in. As Newcastle, I think that's the best crossover to a real life incident. No, Kyle Ridley, no! Oh, he's having a disastrous run in his sim racing career. Oh, someone's going to join him!
Oh, and he's driven forward straight into the wall as well. Oh, we knew that that top section of the racetrack was going to be so challenging and fraught with danger in these cars. And again, lap 2, we've seen it happen once again. This is the race lead, though. Trevor Hearn has shot through into the lead. John Merritt's not going to let him have it easily. You can see the teammate of Hearn, Brody Watts, in there, and then Mackenzie and Riddle. That's our top 5 at the moment, and they've got 4 seconds clear of the next group of races, so they can battle like this if they want. And it's going to take a lot of work from Matthew Wall, Matthew Harriott, any of the drivers behind if they're going to challenge this group of drivers for the win of race number 1. Good work from John Merritt to go back to the lead and immediately try and recover it. This is what happens. Too much steering angle. Car loose as it gets very, very light over the crest of the Dipper. Back with the top 5.
Yeah, I was going to say there's definitely a wheel off the ground there at the Dipper. Interesting facts as well with that lead pack. John Merritt came out of Forest Elbow second, goes through the chase second. The car that actually benefited the most out of that was Trevor Hearn. Trevor Hearn was third off of the elbow, got through to the race lead by the time they got through to the chase. And now Merritt's going to have this one back from Brody Watts. Again, I think he's setting himself up here. But Hearn's gone with his teammates. So those two trying to line themselves up. I think they're attempting to box Merritt out. Yeah, Merritt's been outfoxed. It takes two teammates teaming up to get out of bed earlier than John Merritt, though.
And we all know support categories at Mount Panorama do have to get out of bed very, very early. Yeah, this will be so interesting how it plays out, though, for the rest of race 1. As you say, 2 teammates up front. Merritt's not alone, though, with Riddle looking to get around Sean Mackenzie, who is the solo man, if you will, of this group.
Yeah, we're going to keep our eye a little bit further down the order as well. We just need to keep looking for what's happened to Jason Cutts. So he's managed to eke himself back out, back into the top 20. So he's in 19th at this point in time. A really good opportunity to grab that grid spot. And I think there's going to be a battle on for 20th in this race as well. But don't count out this lead pack. Mackenzie and Riddle are going toe-to-toe. The critical thing these guys are going to do is they're going to work hard to make sure that they don't fight too much, that they lose the draft. At that point, why did you even bother squabbling it? You're only going to end up racing for 4th and 5th instead of the win.
Riddle doesn't want to be separated from his teammate.
I tell you what, John Merritt just about made himself a skewer out of Trevor Hearn. He locked up so deep in a Forest Elbow. He nearly put Trevor Hearn around.
He did a lot of time lost from Merritt there as well. As you see, Mackenzie's already caught him looking to pass. So what happened? And running in 3rd place. Wow. Was he looking to maybe dive down the inside? Back on the live pictures, though, that Conrod straight really has brought all of the top 5 back within a car's length of each other. Mackenzie looking to go around the outside on Merritt if he can. You love this if you're Trevor Hearn, Brody Watts, and battles, of course, throughout the whole rest of our 30-plus car field. Slipstream does what it does. No one is racing solo at the moment.
Yeah, and it's the battle of the best mats as well back in 6th and 7th. Matthew Wall versus Matthew Harriet. Well, I think that's probably the most important battle of the night. Who is the quicker Matthew? We'll find out at the end of this one. You got your eye anywhere up and down the field at the moment, Dave?
You have to have eyes everywhere to keep an eye on what's going on in this field. One of them, though, 20th place, which will start on pole for race number 2.
Oh, for the race lead, they're
leaders.
3 wide. They're 3 wide on the run to Griffins. This is going to be insane. Merritt got a huge toe. He got the double draft off of Brody Watts and Trevor Hearn. He had the cojones to go down the inside 3 wide, and John Merritt back to the race lead.
It's a massive slipstream up Mountain Straight, and he slingshotted past 2 cars, got into the lead. They tried to make a very, very wide pairing. He wasn't going to give up on it.
Do you think he's got time, John Merritt, to get the tape measure out there and measure exactly how far he needs for the car? Because that was perfect. If they'd have given him about 2 centimeters left, they were all in the fence there, but no, all 3 of them get through perfectly. Well done, John Merritt.
Sixth has actually caught them a little bit, the way that they've been squabbling at the elbow through the chase, etc. It's just the 2 of them in the background there, Wall and Harriet. So if it keeps carrying on like this with the top 5, they might yet still join us in the final 2 or 3 laps here.
It'll be interesting. The key gap that we're actually keeping our eyes on here, ladies and gentlemen, is from Glen Riddle back to Wall. We're actually not looking at the gap to race leader here, which I believe is what we're looking at the moment. They're 4 seconds back off of Riddell, not 5.7. That's the gap to the race leader. So that's what we're sort of keeping an eye on. I think we've got 2 laps left to run here too.
Partridge and Oliver have caught that as well. So 4 cars forming up here in 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. The lead's back on. He gained 2 on Mountain Straight. Looks like Merritt might lose 2 down Conrod. Definitely Brody Watts through into the lead. Hearn looking to go around the outside. That move seems to be working pretty well in the chase. Doesn't in bigger cars.
I was about to say, did Sean McKenzie actually buy onto this one right here? Because this would be really important for Watts and Hearn. If they're working together and they really want to get control of this lead pack, it's incredibly important for Sean McKenzie. But actually, he's lost out of all of this. He slots himself back into 5th because Riddell had the draft lane on the left-hand side of the track on the run down to Murray. So, I don't know. Catbird seat? Do you want to be sitting here in 5th spot? I nearly think I want to be watching.
Tony Baker was inside of the top 10, I think, and he has had the rear snap out on him. Oh,
it got
joined. Well, we need a debris flag or a slippery surface flag down there, that's for sure. 3 wide once again, though. Merritt looks to do exactly the same move, looks to pull his teammate Riddell through as well, but it doesn't work out. Side by side for 3rd place. Merritt through into the lead. Watts holds on to 2nd, and McKenzie still with the popcorn and the frozen drink.
Mate, I mean, that's the real reason you're sitting back here in 5th spot for Sean McKenzie. Slightly less work. You've got 4 cars ahead of you to pull you along. At the same time, you get to watch a ding-dong battle. This is, I call this the endurance racing sim. Because you just sit back, you watch the leaders go at it, and you have yourself a good old time. Save yourself some fuel in endurance racing too.
Not often 2 wide. Through the cutting, works out. It doesn't work out in the background for Drew Beecham, who ends up in the wall. And no.
He had to go somewhere.
It's blind, and poor Reese Garden, no qualifying time for him. He'd raced his way up a lot of positions. Now he's come blindly around the cutting and tagged the stationary car. This is that pursuing pack, the second group, if you will, of Partridge, Oliver, Harriet, and Wall. Harriet and Wall have both been swallowed up by Partridge and Oliver here, who have worked their way forward in this one. McKenzie off the leading pack. Will it only be a leading 4, as they will take the white flag on race 1 at the end of this lap? He is in a little bit of a dangerous no man's land. 4 cars in front, 4 cars behind, and he's not in the slipstream of our leading 4. Here comes Harriet to try to take one of his spots back.
Yeah, we'll see if this actually works, because there's a really good opportunity for these guys to see if they can search forward. They need to take this slingshot bet if they're going to go forwards, but at the same time, white flag out. Everything goes out the window with the white flag, and somebody's tagged themselves on to Sean McKenzie, so it's Matthew Harriet. He's got himself a buddy now. They can start to work their way back forwards towards this pack, and we'll see if it all ends up aces. Oh, John Merritt's gone back to third. I think this is intentional.
It's all chess. It's all gamesmanship on the final lap. You just need to lead at the end, and the mountain straight is a ridiculous slipstream. So Brody Watts takes the white flag, leads us onto the final lap. John Merritt, a couple car lengths behind. Riddle will almost force Hearn to not be able to follow in the slipstream, as they're all drivers left-hand side heading up the mountain close as you can get. The leader, Brody Watts, moves across to look to cover the inside this time, and it will be a four-way fight. McKenzie 2 seconds behind, not quite close enough, being caught by that next group as well. All of it for the whole top 10 in flux, but it's Watts that leads from championship leader John Merritt.
Yeah, here we go. This is where it gets decisive. I don't want to lead when I'm coming to Forest Elbow. I want to be in third. Third's probably the best spot, unless they can outfox each other on the straight. There's been a little bit of weaving, a little bit of looking to break that toe last time by. Now they're going to go too wide across the top.
Trevor Hearn thinking that Riddell will blink first, but Riddle won't, and they will keep going side by side behind. Watts slowing up a little bit. Merritt's all over the back of him. Partridge has gotten to the lead of that next group. Battle for sixth, bottom of your screen. Everyone fighting for every position in race number one. Across the top of the mountain, yeah, for sure. Really looking to get his teammate back into play if he can. Brody Watts needs Trevor Hearn to help him out. Otherwise, it's 2 against 1, and Merritt and Riddle can work together. So they come towards the elbow. Sean McKenzie's not close enough to make it a 5-way fight. It's all about the teammates. It's all about chess, and it's all about car positioning now. Hearn got a pretty scruffy run off the elbow. Down the long straight. It's not going to matter.
Here comes John Merritt. So Merritt pulls out of the draft at the exact last possible moment. Watch Riddle. He'll go with him the instant that he gets there. Merritt's forced Riddle into the grass. Now they're going to go side by side. Down to the kick. Here comes Hearn. They're going to go too wide through the kick on the final lap of the race. Merritt, Brody Watts make contact. Trevor Hearn around the outside. He wants to steal the bag of marbles, and he's picked them all up. 2 corners left to go. Trevor Hearn race leader, and it's going to be Glenn Riddell escorted off the road as well.
Just the 2 of them now after contact, and Hearn will lead Merritt through the final corner. The checkered flag waits for him. Trevor Hearn gets it, but not a bad points result at all for John Merritt. McKenzie looks like he's going to hold on to 3rd position as Partridge, Harriet, Watts, Wall, and Oliver all come through. They were going to give everything for that race win, and it didn't work out cleanly for all.
Oh, Trevor Hearn from 4th to 1st. That is Formula V action. All set up, all done at exactly the right time. And have a look at Jason Cutts coming home deeper down in the pack as well. What a final lap. And we've got 2 more of them to come, Dave. That's the benefit of Formula V action.
Stephen Butcher's going to be pretty excited about race number 2 because he's crossed the line in 20th place, which will see him on pole for race number 2 when we kick in the top 20 invert. That is going to make race 2 very, very interesting as well. And some of our last finishes here. Drew Beecham, Reese Gardner in 25th. Doesn't look too enthused about that.
Do you blame him?
No, it's entirely understandable.
Jason Cutts, I think critically actually got home there in 18th spot, so he's going to line up 3rd. So he's in actually a crap spot here as well. Yeah, I mean, look, if you haven't seen Formula Vee Australia action prior to tonight, it's basically been that for the entire series by 3 races a night.
So that's the results of race 1. Trevor Hearn, John Merritt, Sean McKenzie. Well, maybe that did work out, as third and fourth places went off the road and he came through into a podium, barely surviving the pursuing pack of Partridge, Harriet, Watts, Wall, Oliver, and then Sean Chapman and Franz Estebauer inside of the top 10 then as well. The next 10 cars be with some good grid positions for race number 2, and it's Glenn Riddell, Joshua Burden, Alexander Newton, Tony Baker, Dean Hunt, Cameron Edwards, Will Twinning, etc. They are going to grid up now, and we get to do it all over again.
I think there was a critical couple of moments in there. Obviously, contacts, but it was more importantly than that. It was, if you actually have a look, where they all position themselves, where they all set themselves up to come down that final run. Now we're going to have race number 2. Glenn Riddle, yeah, look, there's a lot of pain that comes through the chase and facing backwards, but now he gets all of that gain because he's going to be much further up the grid. Stephen Butcher, you mentioned it, out on pole, and I tell you what, Matthew Walker's got that Shave for Akira logo in his Zoom feed as well, so he's keen to get that thing up and into a podium chase. Cuts, Will Twining, Cam Edwards and Dean Hunt round out your top 6.
Indeed, going to be very, very interesting if our drivers who've just stood on the podium for race number 1 can't work their way through the field. We've seen that once you get those breaks amongst the slipstreaming groups, it becomes so difficult to make progress. Oh, almost a hint of a jump start there from one of the Frog Leap Juice cars. Don't want to do that at all. Good getaway from Butcher, the inherited pole sitter, and then Walker and Cuts as our top 3 immediately onto the racing line and looking to maximize their run up Mountain Straight for the first time here. The action is all going to be between 15th and 20th place for the moment, though, as that's where our drivers who just finished inside of the top 10 find themselves needing to make some ground in race number 2.
Yeah, who got aggressive, though, at turn number 1? Who's been biding their time? Stephen Butcher's starting to get caught. Cuts is going to be to the inside of Matthew Walker. They're 3 wide on the run down here. Glenn Riddell's gone from 19th to 10th already, and he's staring at a wall, the guys he was racing in the last race. They're holding him up yet again. There's 3 ride the run into Griffin's Bend for lap number 1 of race number 2, the final round of Formula Vee Australia. And have a look at the action. Oh, chaos right down the back at Griffin's Bend. There's a car over and around. It's a 25 machine. And unfortunately, that is just going to be race 2 basically over for Drew Beecher.
Few others as well, a little too eager to try to make positions with the cold tyres on this opening lap, and at the cutting, a few other cars around and damaged as well. Oh, it's so dangerous with the difference of speeds there. Well, Twining had a good opening lap though, because he's gone from 4th into 2nd as they went up Mountain Straight. He'll be happy with that. The danger is here. Estebauer around the outside. Don't normally see cars too wide at McPhillamy. Don't normally see them too wide over the top of Skyline either. The car's blind coming over the crest at full speed. So lucky to not just drill into the back of it.
Somebody just went backwards. Somebody's
Twining.
Backwards at the deeper. Yeah, it was Twining. Yeah, it was.
More carnage at the dipper.
Somebody didn't hold their brakes.
See, when you're the third car to pile into it, I've got sympathy. Gosh, when it's the 10th, it's... Yeah, and the track's blind there, that's for sure. So Butcher still leads 2.5 seconds. This is Walker and Cuts side by side for 2nd place. This could be a very, very mixed up grid. Who else has made some great progress? Well, Glenn Riddle's in 5th. Burden's in 6th. Merritt is up into 7th. And you can see all those cars coming over the crest and down towards the chase again.
So here we go. It's going to be everyone piling down to the chase on lap number 1. Here comes the action. Who's got the heat? Who's got the bravery? And I think it's Ray Oliver that's going to hang on to things at this point in time. But keep your eyes on Matty Wall, who's really trying to get in amongst that. And have a look at the line of pulse tuning entries trying to group themselves up. We've seen this just about every time. It's just trying to get themselves sorted out, get themselves in line, and the pulse tuning entries always seem to work together well.
So top 3 spaced out, but there has been carnage on lap number 1 of race 2. Having a look here. That's Brody Watts.
Over a curb, straight on. And there's Twining. Oh, Cam Edwards.
Mate.
Oh! I don't know if he intentionally rolled forward there or was off the brake. Cam's normally pretty good like that. That's not one that you see from Cam. Cam's actually one of the series admin, series officials in charge of sort of getting everything together. He's really not like that. There was a big talking to drivers after the Sandown round that basically just said, hey, you can't pile into these incidents full throttle. It doesn't put on a good show. Doesn't make us look any good. There's a few comments, a few drivers did the exact same thing again. Race control's gonna get that little black book out. Your name's going in, and if you didn't pay heed to the instructions after the last round,
What we're left with is just the top 22 cars running that haven't been through pit lane for serious repairs and serious damage. A lot of cars tangled up amongst all of that. This looks like it's Burden, Newton and Riddle 4th, 5th and 6th. Again, too wide over the crest at McPhillamy, and Burden in 4th place will retain that position. Newton showing the nose, but not going to be able to outbrake anyone coming down this part of the racetrack.
yeah, a couple of drivers I really want to make notes of. They've done a phenomenal job in these opening couple of laps. Obviously, great starts from good positions on the grid, but have a look at the gap that Butcher's built. Normally on lap number 1 in a reverse grid race, when the chaos is unfolding behind you, that's the best opportunity to show a clean pair of heels. That's exactly what he's done. He got out really strong early, broke the toe. Now he's looking to continue that momentum. Cuts has gone with him, stayed clear of all the chaos in lap number 1. Great job from him. And have a look at Matty Walker as well. This is a great opportunity for him to bag a huge number of points. He's got 4 seconds back to the next car at this point in time. Great opportunity, like we just said, for him to get that sponsorship. $942 raised for World's Greatest Shave. Mate, how much for you to take it all off?
How much to shave the bear too? That's not going to grow back at all, though. One of the things we also do love about Matthew Walker's presented scene is the almost 3D printed looking Formula V wheel he's got. Matches what's in the sim, matches what people race with out there in Australia. So that's a good little sort of Formula V rim he's got himself. And I think the bear is looking after his GT style rim. So that's good. But he's on for... yeah, maybe you need that crew chief to tell you a lot about how to avoid any of those incidents. But it's looking good for him at the moment, though, because Cuts has caught Butcher. Walker has still been using that slipstream very, very cleverly, not making any mistakes and just following the car in front. So the top 3 might form up a little bit here, and Walker can go with them.
You know how we can tell that that his crew chief's good at his job? Because he's very, very good at it.
Okay.
You like it? You like it? I've been working on it, sitting on it for a while. He's so full of culture, maybe. I love it. There's always something to look at. He's Cambridge impressive. You know what else there is to look at? Racing action, because Ray Oliver's in the thick of it in this battle pack day. Oh, come on, I'm the comedic relief. You're the talent here.
Okay. Sure, we'll go with that. Ray Oliver in 8th has a lot happening in his mirrors, and he's not quite able to focus on trying to get forward with Riddle, Newton and Merritt, because everyone behind him so angsty and anxious to try to make position. These cars are flat out from the cutting all the way through this section, so the drivers behind do get impatient. They do want to carry their momentum in towards a pass, like you mentioned. Pretty well flat out through McPhillamy as well, as they go side by side there. Famous piece of racetrack side by side over Skyline. Does it work out if you're anyone but Jordan Cox?
I'd love to see, if who's got the bravery, who's going to continue to carry it down here. And after that near punting incident from race number 1, do you reckon that John Merritt is actually going to be the guy that's got the bravery to go down the inside at the elbow once again?
So this is Jason Cuts passing that part of the track like we spoke about. Caught up to Butcher. And
He's put in an awkward spot, yeah. Got to run.
Look to the inside at McPhillamy, and we saw Jason Cuts sort of qualify very, very well, race very, very well. Live pictures though, they're crashing down at the chase. 3 cars there, and they've tangled wheels as the field wants to compress and narrow down through the kink and towards the chase. Newton and Oliver, one
I
of
think
the
Andrew Gamo's stuck.
Andrew Gamo.
So I think there was a lot of cars sort of tripping over each other, a whole bunch of cars sort of going for the same piece of real estate all at the same time.
We know in the 1 lap pace in qualifying, Cuts was the fastest of those 3. So for Butcher and Walker to go with him till the final laps and then try to battle might be the smart way. So here's how it happens. Looking for a spot in the middle to go 3 wide was Andrew Gamo, and it just closed up as he went for it. Top 3 leapfrogging as they go along, but still Joshua Burden quicker than them on the last lap by almost 2 seconds. So he's starting to hunt them down. And of course, if Merritt and Riddle now in 5th and 6th work together, they should be very, very capable of making these last 6 or so minutes of race number 2 very spicy indeed.
Yeah, I mean, you know, what we've seen so far is definitely what the Formula Vee series has been about. It's been about drafting battles, but it's been about setting yourself up, putting yourself in strong positions. We've got the opportunity for now to see if Burden can really continue to carry that car in a nice direction. Unfortunately, the thing that's really not carrying its weight for me tonight is internet connection. You know, we've talked about some of the similarities between the sims, how some of the drivers can add things, bits and pieces back. But at the end of the day, a sim is only ever going to be that. It's a simulated experience. One of the things you're relying on, it's not an engine in real life. It's not a wing. It's not a steering wheel. It's not the suspension and bits and pieces upon your car. It's your internet connection. It's your hardware. It's your graphics card. It's your CPU. Have you got all the monitors, all the visibility that you need? Some of these guys are racing on a single screen. That comes with limitations. Do you opt for VR? That comes with other limitations as part of that as well. It's all about what you can scrap out of these Formula Vee Australia entries. And then at the top end of the scale, you've got yourself multiple monitors, you've got yourself a VR headset, and then you've also got yourself a motion room. This is what the top end of the table looks like for Matthew Harriott. And look, I've got a pretty good rig, and Matthew Harriott still somehow finds a way to make me jealous.
Yeah, what we're missing is a good look at his sort of wheelbase and steering wheel there, but you can see he's definitely looking across. Where is the guy I'm racing with? He's racing with Matthew Hall again. Yeah, he's looking.
But you know
and he's also keeping an eye on what's happening behind him as well as the 4-car pack goes down through the chase.
You know the best part about all this, David Haynes, you actually see him heel and toe a little bit there as well. It was watching the grin from ear to ear that went across his face when he turned around and had a look for where that other car was. Have a look at that smile from Matthew Harriott. He's having an absolute blast. And I get the feeling he's on Discord with a few guys who'll look through the corner here. And he does what I do when I'm...
He's gone out wide onto the grass. He spun it, but he's avoided being hit. He was trying to go too wide around the outside and found there wasn't much grip on the dirty stuff. There's also not much grip in the grass. He does a good job to not drive straight into the pit wall, though. It's cost him his time, momentum, and also goodbye that pack he was racing with, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't have a helmet on, so, you know, you can still breathe a little bit easier, but sometimes it's better to have that helmet on. Keeps you a little bit more focused for Matthew Harriott. But he's having a blast. That's... Oh, somebody else back. Is that Ray Oliver? I think it was Ray Oliver. It was. Yep. He was having a blast. And that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Doesn't matter what the end result is. Did you have fun? And if you're not having fun in a Formula V, you haven't got a grin from ear to ear. I think you've ended up in the wrong road.
Penultimate lap. Here goes Matthew Walker to the lead of the race. Not enough of a grin on him, but he's hoping that he can hold that on for longer, and he's gone out very wide on the exit of the cutting.
Somebody's joined them.
It's meant that Joshua Burden's been able to catch them. So Cuts and Butcher are still part of this lead pack, but Burden, he was on track to catch them on this lap anyway. That's expedited it all a little bit, and there's only another 2 seconds back to John Merritt and Glenn Riddle, the top 6 in this race, all continuing to close up on each other towards the end here. Walker is playing it for track position, not for lap time right now. When you look at where he's placing the car, the inside at McPhillamy, at the inside of Skyline. We'll see if that can work out for another lap and a half with the quality of drivers. Very down to this group. No, he's looped it at the dipper. They've piled into him.
That's going to allow the chasing pack to get in there. Does he get out the other side? Does he keep rolling? He does. He's going to be wounded. It's not going to be great, but there's still an opportunity for a points finish. You can see it in his eyes. He's just a little bit disappointed with himself there.
Oh dear. Maybe the defensive line a little bit at the dipper and too much effort on the mirrors, and it's thrown a bag of spanners into the lead of the race. Joshua Burden there, but it's let Riddle and Merritt catch. It's brought some other drivers into this pack as well, like Lee Partridge is suddenly in with a chance of the race win here in race number 2, which transfers the grid directly through into race number 3. So a win here is worth a lot. 3 wide, Jason Cutts lifts out of it as he gets swamped into the chase.
So the only car that matters for Jason Cutts is Lee Partridge. He's got to beat him here to give himself a chance on points, because he lost a boatload of points in race number 1 here. So if he finishes behind here in race number 2, disaster is the only way he finishes second in the championship. Has he got Lynn riding on board with him? Is he receiving a little bit of guidance in the air? We hope that this lap goes all according to plan for Jason Cutts.
And it is the final lap for this race as well. So you got to think, will I be close enough up Mountain Straight? Will I stay close across the top of the mountain? And will I be able to make the pass into the chase? This is what happened. Cutts just tags him a little bit, so might be carrying a little bit of damage. He's going very well, Jason Cutts, for that amount of contact. And, well, up towards turn number 2, Griffin's Bend. Things are still looking good for Burden, but its teammates may be working together behind him in the mirrors. Cutts still wants a piece of this, and Lee Partridge likewise is all over him.
Yeah, here it comes. This is where it's about to all kick off. This is where you got to set yourself up. This is where you got to prepare yourself. This is how you're going to make sure that you can get that move done. John Merritt run race number 1. Has he got the opportunity now to win race number 2? Who's going to come out on top? Burden's got an opportunity. Cutts is there. Partridge is alongside. Oh, man. There's a chain. We've got about 8 cars here. You know, any one of them can win it. Any one of them can win it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's 8 cars within 3 seconds, and it's compressing as they go flat out up the mountain. They really close up slipstreaming up the mountain more than you see in other cars as well, from the cutting to here at Skyline, where there's nothing in it for all of them. And Burden is fighting with maybe one hand behind his back because it's teammates behind him in 2nd and 3rd. And Partridge ever so close. Butcher, Ridley and Wall might have just dropped back a tiny bit, but we can almost guarantee some carnage between here and the chase.
Yeah, that's it. It's the final lap. If you're going to put yourself out there, now's the time. Now's the opportunity for Jason Cutts. Race 1 penalty means that, race 1 was sort of compromised. That's what I meant by penalty. Race 1 was pseudo-penalised by the incident, and now he's got the opportunity to get himself a
Burden's got
result.
a second here. Burden had a second on them coming out of the elbow. That might almost be enough. Leapfrogging other teammates behind, but it might not be enough to catch Burden before the braking zone. Yeah, they have. They've gone too wide. They've stalled out. And Burden might have just been lucky enough to be quick enough down the mountain off the elbow to bring this one home under far less pressure than we were expecting. Cutts and Partridge side by side through the chase, and Cutts manages to hold on to that one. A little less drama than you might have otherwise predicted, but they know this directly sets the grid for race number 3, and they don't want to throw anything away. So Burden out the final corner will take the checkered flag first. He'll start pole for race number 3 with Riddle, Merritt, Cutts, and Partridge behind him. Here's Harriet Nestabauer.
Matty Harriet had an opportunity here. Oh, look at the crisscross from Nestabauer. Getting cheeky into the final corner. Deep into Murray's. Up over the curb. Oh, he's thrown it away, friends.
He's done a little bit of what Harriet did earlier in the race, and he'll just get his pocket picked for one position at the end there. I think Brendan Nealon might have just grabbed him. This would be Chapman and Breyer. Breyer showing us the perfect over-under. Great execution. The checkered flag comes up, and oh, that's a great feeling, isn't it? When you get to pull that move off in the final corner.
Yeah, it's not very often that happens either in terms of racing.
Or not very often that it happens to you.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, sometimes you look at that and you just got to celebrate it. This is defensive from Mick Fisher. There's just about a Formula V's width down in there. He's taken himself deep through the chase. Trevor Hearn outfoxes the 33 to take that one home for P20 in race number 2.
Hearn played in like an Atari 2600.
Yep. He was pressing every button that was available to him on Mick Fisher, and eventually the cheat code got through.
That's what you hope to happen when you're the first driver to break. You're saying, well, I hope I've picked it right, and he's in too deep, not I've been a little too cautious. Great racing overall, though, and great from Joshua Burton to catch the leading trio past them and then have enough in his pocket when it came to that final lap to hold off Glenn Riddle, John Merritt, completing that podium. Cuts in fourth, held off Partridge, and then Kyle Ridley, Matthew Wall, Stephen Butcher, Sean McKenzie, and Matthew Walker, despite that little error at the dipper, still managed to convert it into a top 10. We'll have to show his webcam bigger later on so people can actually scan the QR code, and we can see if we can put that number up a little bit. But then Matthew Harriet there in 11th, Nealon Estabauer, Ray Oliver, Ben Breyer, Sam Chapman, Liam Caplice getting into 17th. He has a lot of speed, we know from other series, and the last couple of races just hasn't even been able to find a top 20 to show for it in this championship. Patrick Harding, Brody Watts, Trevor Hearn, a couple of drivers taking the jump right now. And let's have a look. It was Newton, I think, in 21st. Yeah, from Mick Fisher, Cam Edwards, Dylan Thomas, Phil Gardner, Reese Gardner, Dean Hunt, Andrew Gamo, Tony Baker, Will Twining. And a couple other drivers I think might have retired, parked it, or not taken start was Harden Slattery, Drew Beecham, Nathaniel Coburn. We've got a couple of minutes here before race number 3, which a lot of our drivers will greatly appreciate. They got thrown from a chaotic race 1 straight into a chaotic reverse grid race number 2. And as we think about sort of wrapping up this season and this championship, got to thank everyone who's come on board to make it possible, from Southern Cross Esports with the race control, which was much needed at many rounds, but also some great sponsors there: CXC Racing, Lux Performance, Giant Mandurah, V-Race Experience, Litech Systems, and of course, as an organization, Formula Vee Australia, backing this one in. And I hope they've been richly rewarded, because we've seen all of these drivers from all across Australia, all the different states, all the state-based clubs come together and be able to race each other here, drivers that they might not otherwise, race against at state level competition. Take a minute or so break though, and we'll bring you. Really?
Before we do, I got a special guest. I think he was here last round. He wasn't having the most fun of times at Sandown Raceway, but Cam Edwards taking on the mountain of Formula V. Look, I get the feeling that some of these curbs could just about swallow any one of the tires around the corners of this thing. How is it trying to keep that thing underneath you all the way from Griffins to the elbow?
It's a little bit dicey on cold tyres, I have to admit. But I think that's the Formula V in general when it's when the tyres aren't up to temp. But once you get into a rhythm, it's actually not too bad.
In terms of things, the racing's been thick and fast here this evening. We saw you caught up in an incident in race number 1. How did you go in race number 2 there? What's been the takeaway so far from tonight? And I suppose we'll talk about the season at large.
Race number 2 didn't go to plan. I had a spin at the cutting on the opening lap, which didn't help, and then I was dropping fluid, so I ended up having a spin at the dipper as well. So I think that melee that was at the dipper was probably me that caused that, because I had a bit of a spin. But as for the season in general, it's been awesome. Some of the racing from everyone across the grid has been really cool and really intense, and that's what Formula V racing is all about. So we hope that everyone's enjoying it, and we'll continue into the new season.
Mate, in terms of things, what would be your highlight of the season? Because we go all the way back to Phillip Island late last year, and there was a couple thousandths for the victory in one of the races back there. We've come through here. Trevor Hearn picks the pockets of both his teammate and John Merritt, and comes away with race number 1 win. It's just been action side by side in a whole number of different places that with bigger cars you really don't get the opportunity to, and well, making digital sim racing friends along the way. It's also Formula V racing with guys in other states that you've not necessarily had the opportunity to.
I think it's been really good in that we've got quite a diverse range of drivers from right across the country, and that's what Formula V racing is all about. The community in the real world is just as friendly and just as competitive as it is here in the virtual world. So the highlight for me has just been seeing the large grids. Phillip Island was an absolute treat for round one, where we had 45 drivers, and we had 6 or 7 guys going across the line together, and I think the top 3 were split by less than a thousandth of a second. So that's some of the highlights, and we have been seeing close racing. Watson Glen was another one where big pack racing where everyone's in it, people coming from 20th on the grid in one of the races and running inside the top 10, so it has shown that there's a demand for it, and we're just really happy at Southern Cross Esport that we can put this on for everybody and put on a show. So hopefully it's bigger and better when we move into the new season.
Most importantly, what's the least kind thing that you can say on air about Ray Oliver? Because there's any opportunity to G Ray Oliver up, I've got to go for it.
It's just with Ray, if he was as good a driver as he was a photographer, he'd be a world champion. But unfortunately, that's not the case.
Yeah, there's also words that his banter talk's not up to the A game as well, and his commentary debut didn't go great. So you make sure you tell him that Scotty Rankin tells him he needs to work on his commentary, mate.
Yeah, he was very nervous working with you, Scotty, for that one, and I thought he did all right, but yeah. It's not something that you do every day, so it takes a little bit of getting used to being a commentator. So all hats off to you guys who do the commentary. You do a fabulous job for us, and hopefully in race 3 now, you can have another good call.
Wait, did I just get a compliment out of Cam Edwards? Like, Cam Edwards was actually saying nice things about me. I've got to record that. Mum, get the camera ready. We got to go back and watch that one back. Thank you very much, Cam Edwards. It's been a pleasure broadcasting you so far, mate. Get the head down. Race number 3.
Thanks, guys. Have a good call.
Well, here we go, getting ready for the final race, and all things have looked good championship-wise for John Merritt so far, and with the progressive grid from race number 2 into race number 3, he's starting in a good spot for this one to hopefully avoid a little bit of carnage. A longer race number 3, 20 minutes. What will that extra 5 minutes give us? 15 gave us a lot from race number 1 and race number 2. Ready to go with Joshua Burden on the pole position. And a pretty good jump from 3rd place there. Burden getting away pretty well. You can see Jason Cutts and Lee Partridge right back into battle again as well.
Yeah, and that's important as well. Remember we said it was about, or what was the difference between those guys in race number 1? It was 18th to 4th. 4th and 5th for Lee Partridge in race 1 and race 2. And 18th and 4th for Jason Cutts. So he's got a lot of work cut out. I think it's going to take a little bit of chaos for things to roll his way to pick up P number 2. So a strong finish is what he's looking for. He's just looking to secure 3rd in the championship now. But the run up to Griffin's Bend, I think he'll be more concerned about getting through here.
Last race of the series. The kids are always better behaved on the final day of school, right? We'll see, but it's relatively good so far. Mostly single file up towards the top of the mountain. We know that when we get towards the dipper is when things can be problematic. But Cam Edwards, oh no, what have you done to him? Already in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, Cam's not having a great night. I think he's just found he's tripped over somebody's wheel at some point. He was just telling to us how treacherous it is on cold tyres here. Is very, very wide for Joshua Burden. John Merritt has slotted himself into P2. It's Glenn Riddell that leads the way across the top for 20 minutes to round us out. The final race of the first season of the Formula Vee Australia Championship, and here they come. It is 8 cars, throw a blanket over them. It was 3 wide nearly back there at McPhillamy, and now they'll funnel themselves down. Last time, for the first time, round through the S's. Cold tyres to the dipper. Somebody's going around at the dipper.
Frances de Bauer, and there's a few other drivers that have caught him. We're very, very fortunate that our leading 8 managed to not tangle each other. It worked out pretty well for Jason Cutts. I think he went around the outside of Joshua Burden and up into third place. But even before that, it worked out very well for these teammates of Merritt and Riddell. They've got a little lead. They work together to get around and into the front. This is Cam Edwards getting hit from behind, and oh shucks, I'm sure is what he'll say.
Yeah, somebody behind. I just don't think they understood that they were going to be on the outside on cold tires, the Griffins, because that's normally what you breathe. 3 wide as they come through here. Kyle Ridley starts to show his Frog Leap Juice Racing entry towards the top end of things. He's going to take 1 spot away there from Lee Partridge, and Matt Wall is now the next driver that's in his sights, and here they come. Once more down and under the Armour All Bridge on the run to Murray's Corner. And it's going to be a top 8, all just about tied up. I think we've even got 9 in this lead battle pack for race number 3.
Oh, I'm going to call it 10 to Sean McKenzie here. What a great view he's got starting lap number 2, hopefully with more tyre pressure, a little more confidence, swapping places in front of him. I think Harriet got around Butcher. Harriet's up 3 spots as the biggest mover inside of the top 10.
Car. Is that Ben Bray? Was he slow coming off the final corner? Yeah, he is. Spun at the last corner. There you go. So he's getting things tied up. Here comes Jason Cutts. And only thing I've got to say about Sean McKenzie at the moment from tonight's racing, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Oh, he tried to be the bride. He's trying to take it. He's absolutely trying to steal the wedding party. Right now, Sean McKenzie on a charge.
Thought against 3 wide up into Griffin's Bend as he watches Harriet and Butcher battle in front of him. Up the mountain again, Partridge looking a little defensive, trying to cover the inside of the cutting side by side. These cars occasionally manage to make side-by-side racing work where it never would for any other category.
Yes, this is going to be Ben Brayer's replay. A little bit too hot into the final corner. Yep, and then the rear just kept wandering away from it. But yeah, I mean, that's just what it's about, isn't it? The biggest thing about Formula V racing is the racecraft you have to have. Yes, sure, you've got to have talent. Yes, sure, you've got to be able to take it deep. Yes, sure, you've got to understand what it's like to drive this thing through the lap and keep the car underneath you. But the racecraft it takes, this is why drivers that are successful here go on to have successful careers, because you've got to have the smarts. You can't just be the fastest guy out there. You've also got to outthink them all to actually get the job done, and even then that's not enough. Trevor Hearn just lost the place. Yeah, he did.
Yeah. Is that our pal Cam again?
I think it was Liam Caplice, yeah.
I think Cam Edwards might have been in it.
Yeah,
and
indeed
he was.
My word, here we go.
Him and
Jason
Caplice
Cutts.
together, no luck. Absolutely no luck whatsoever in these cars and in this championship. Side by side for teammates up front. Burden all over them again as well. Partridge has gotten ahead of Cutts and into 4th place there, but it all can change very, very quickly and often does.
Here comes Matthew Wall as well. He's didn't have to check up with the cars ahead of him. Kyle Ridley's going to try and get down the inside. We'll see if he can settle it down there and get the job done. Ridley's going to grab a spot away. Wall will tag the curb and bounce into the background. And yet again, it's going to be a lap led by the Pulse Racing Echuca drivers of Riddell and Merritt. Burden is now just watching them and trying to settle himself down. And the replay of what happened to Dylan Thomas.
Yeah, we're about to find out. I'm going to guess someone gave him a bad push or bad gear shift.
Yeah, actually, gear shift is probably the better way to go. He didn't money shift, did he? He didn't go down instead of up.
Here's our top 7 absolutely crawling all over each other up Mountain Straight, but John Merritt's positioned well to take the optimal racing line, use that banking and crown of the road at Griffin's Bend, and his teammate, who didn't have it, almost got up into the grey.
Yeah, very, very wide. Hang on, we've just got one in here. Somebody's just come through and said that I've called it correctly. That'll never happen again on live TV. We're back to second.
Gone a second instead of 4th. Bad gear shift.
I just went, no, there's no way that's exactly what it is. This is transfer. No way I got that right. There you go, Dave. Well done here. It's been a pleasure commentating with you.
Jay can be the arbiter of truth. I think I said bad gear shift first.
Yes, Dave. Yes, Dave. Yes, Dave. Surely.
Merritt,
All right.
Burden, Riddle side by side with Lee Partridge, who's not quite game to throw it all away this early in the final race.
So there's a couple things about this one, and about a battle pack of 7 cars, which is effectively what we're out to at the moment. Jason Cutts is actually the last car in this chain. What Jason's issue is being the last car, and we saw this happen to Sean McKenzie in race number 1, is if somebody checks the pack up and there's a gap that forms, you're behind it. You're always behind it when you're last car. Now, yes, you get a huge tow. Yes, you get a ton of momentum. Yes, it can set you up for things. But the big issue is if you do get checked up, it's all over. And car 37 picked up a penalty for something on lap 1.
Gardner, I think.
Cam Edwards. Yeah,
went
and
off the
Franz
back,
Esteban.
yeah.
So there's a bunch of drivers getting penalty for issues on lap number 1. So
It's funny, they come onto Conrod straight, sort of covered by about 2.5 seconds, and by the time they're breaking into the chase, they're covered by about 8/10. They just all squish together.
Is that a lap car?
Joshua Burden's come out of it looking great, though, because Merritt and Riddle have been outfoxed a little bit. Partridge just threw into second.
yeah, so now it's timing, and the problem is the Pulse Racing guys, they'll try and get lined up here. And Partridge has just gone, well, I'm in the right place, I'm in the right lane, I'm setting myself up for the right spot. Here they all go. Cole Ridley and Matt Wall just keep swapping positions just about every corner. So keep your eyes on the Frog Elite Juice Racing car. And the cars behind, I think Harriet and Mackenzie are actually closing in on these guys as well. What was I talking about? Splits in the pack? This is the tricky part, because these guys have either now got to decide who's ahead very, very quickly.
Three wide, 2 deep. 3 wide, 2 deep in the leading packs. Joshua Burden looks like he's just going to hold on to it. Lee Partridge gets pretty well mugged by Riddle. Might still just have the pace up towards the cutting on Merritt. And the more they do that kind of stuff, the more, your 8th, 9th, 10th in the background might be able
3
to
wide!
catch the leaders towards the cutting. Are you kidding me?
What? And they all walked away to tell the tale. That, ladies and gentlemen, is when caution is the better part of valor. There is no way that all 3 of those guys get through their 3 wide like that. Somebody's opted to back out. They've all been looking around, checking their mirrors, looking for where the gap is, and they all fold themselves back in together. My word. Insane racecraft, David Hayes. Insane racecraft and race awareness as well, because if any one of them make contact, they're all on the fence.
Careful, I think that phrase might be trademarked. Cuts in 7th. And it's all happening in front of him as well.
Mackenzie's in this. Mackenzie's just tagged into the draft to Jason Cutts. So this is the 3 wide moment. Kyle Ridley gets the big cojones to go down the inside 3 wide at the cutting, and they just fold themselves in. You guys are mental. Kyle Ridley, God, has somebody fed him his meds today? My word.
Joshua Burden briefly out to a 1-second lead. We know that's what he had on the final lap of last race. He was able to manage it and hold on to it. But I think we'll just see it start to evaporate now. Riddle has no natural predators in 2nd place and closes up on 1st. A leapfrog there between Harriet and Mackenzie in the background. Cutts has dropped back a little bit off this group. Partridge goes off the road, getting in a little hot into the chase. And now Ridley's turn to just find exactly one Formula V width down the inside once again.
Now that is, again, race awareness. Exactly what you need to get through. Oh, this is going to be the shot of a lifetime. I'm going to be seeing this. I don't know if this is in my wildest dreams or my worst of nightmares. You've got to be kidding me. My word. Have you ever seen anything
to not work? Like you're in that position as the driver behind, looking at 3 wide, and my first instinct is to roll out of it a little bit so that when the inevitable happens, I can squeak my way through. But somehow, they all managed to find just enough room to work their way through there. Complexion of the leading pack changing a little bit, almost a 3-car breakaway there, as we saw Partridge run off the road at the chase, and the cars caught behind that have lost touch with the lead just a little bit. Wall up into fourth, and Partridge going out wide on the exit of Griffin's Bend.
Yeah, so now this becomes, I think this is down to Sean McKenzie in ninth now, of this lead-ish group. Wall, I don't think is in too much of a hurry to try and tag himself back on, but the opportunities when they start checking themselves up again, the smaller the breakaway pack, generally, the more effective that they're going to be.
There's a great deal of diversity in all of the Formula Vs that you see out there of different, vintages and manufacturers and different bits in them. One of the things I appreciate that iRacing does is actually you go car to car and the backlight color on the dash is different. You go car to car, people have got their different GoPros and whatever cameras strapped to the roll hoop, like you see at club level competition. People put on whatever they fancy as far as dashes and GoPros and all of that. And different colored wheels, apparently too.
Yep, so settling themselves down in again now, and that gap's continued to open up from Kyle Ridley.
Yeah, it has a lot more time between third and fourth place now. You can see that's first, second, third. They said bye-bye to this next pack that Kyle Ridley is currently leading. Wall and Partridge absolutely sewn together there. Now 3 wide, perfectly even as they come across the crest. I think I want to be in Partridge's position. Don't want to be in Jason Cutts, Matthew Harriott, or Sean McKenzie's position again with no time to react if it does go sour out front.
Yeah, here we go. So I think the guys up front are going to just play it nicely here. They're only going to play nice for another lap, then they can start squabbling. They'll probably be far enough out ahead and basically have this race under control. It's going to be up to Lee Partridge. I think Kyle Ridley's probably the next best guy to try and lead this pack. These are the guys that have had pace so far this evening. And if either of those guys can start to work together up front, they'll pull this whole pack along. The opportunity to slingshot is phenomenal. But the other thing is, when you've got 5 cars, everyone's got a different idea of who wants to lead the pack and who's going to be the best car to lead the pack. And what that tends to do is create checkups. And checkups mean lack of momentum. Lack of momentum means that lead pack starts to get further and further away. And in actual fact, I already have a look at the car off the front end of this one, as Partridge was already trying to go in pursuit of the lead pack.
It just takes Burden to super get his elbows out, though.
So it's Philip Gardner. Philip Gardner was in the yellow car that was sitting through. It wasn't actually Lee Partridge that was out the front. So Phil Gardner was like penalty serve, so that's what it was.
Burden will retain his race lead, looking pretty defensive. Matthew Wall drops backwards in the background as he ended up on the wrong side of the crown of the road and the banking into Griffin's Bend. Burden still just using the inside line everywhere that he can to keep Merritt and Riddle behind. They're too wide again there with Harriott and Wall side by side.
Harriott nearly made contact with the back end of Jason Cutts as well. We're talking centimetres between the nose cone of that car and the rear suspension of Jason Cutts. So those guys are working together just about as best as they possibly can. Look at the weaving. Riddell's looking for any little bit of an overlap, anything he can find. If he can push the 3 wide across the top, we're going to have moment number 2 of insanity of race number 3.
Merritt goes down the inside at Skyline and into the race lead after going side by side through many of the previous corners. Single file for the group behind now at the moment. Harriott had a big wobble at the dipper and nearly got whacked from behind.
Can I just say, I'm absolutely gobsmacked with not only the bravery, but the consistency that these guys are doing. This isn't easy. Just because it's a lower car does not mean this is an easy car to drive. These cars have quite a lot of want of the rear end to swing around, as that's the moment you saw from Matthew Harriott. So there's still a lot of racecraft in this. You can't just jump in this thing and be fast everywhere. You can't just jump in this thing and be brave and just all of a sudden go 3 wide everywhere. It takes practice, it takes skill, and it takes working together to make that happen. So don't just look at this and go, this is easy. Oh no, it's actually tougher because they can go 3 wide.
Cutts leapfrogs 2 cars. Harriott gets in a little bit deep and touches Lee Partridge, who loops around everyone else. Voids, but off the track.
Oh,
Harriott.
Ridley's upside down.
Ridley's still on his roof. And that's going nowhere. Looks like an art piece, doesn't it?
To quote, what was it? The Hulk?
I'm hanging here like a
Here
cow.
like a cow, yeah. Oh, jinx. Oh,
So
my
it
lord.
really opens it up with the top 3 running away with this, but Harriet's down the inside looking to outbreak Ridley. That's where he just has a wobble with Lee Partridge, and then as they both avoid in the same direction. Wheels swap in between, and Ridley ends up as a little bit of a spinning top. Burn back to the lead up front. Harriet just forced Trevor Hearn off the road on Mountain Straight. So exciting couple of kilometres for him.
This is final. I think there's one more lap after this one. I think we've got one more in the tank. So this is the second last lap of the first season of Formula Vee Australia. And have a look at these boys continuing to go toe-to-toe across the top. Burden won the last race. Can he make it 2 in a row? Or is it going to be 2 for John Merritt? Is it going to be Glenn Riddell to steal the show? Make it 3 separate winners from 3 separate races at the Mount.
Wherever he finishes here, Merritt's going for the championship. So it'd feel right if he got to the win and capped it off that way. But he's also maybe thinking a little bit big picture here.
I'm thinking... I saw the Giants Mandura logo pop across the top, and I'm just thinking, on your bike, boys, on your bike! Come on, get that thing wound up all the way down Conrod. Who's going to go for it? You think it's Riddell? But Dave, you don't have to do this again. It's the final week of the season. I can let loose now.
No, I saw something else.
Come on, Dave, let us in.
Matthew Harriet has been in 3 incidents in 1 lap.
Oh, no.
And he's gone for, I think, a full 360 in the runoff at Skyline. Apparently appears to have gotten away with it. John Merritt through to the lead of the race, but there's still 1 more lap. But Burden is sandwiched between the teammates here. And this is the part of the race where you start to lean more in towards the team games, but it's absolutely anyone's, and Burden was able to pull it off in race 2 against the odds as well.
I think it's actually less about the team games, because the championship's just basically signed, sealed.
It tells us what kind of a teammate you are.
Well, no, look, I mean, the team games are started. Merritt's got the championship. It's about glory now, Dave. It's about glory, son. It's the last race. It's the last lap of the Formula Vee Australia Championship. You gotta go for it if you're Glenn Riddell. My money's on him. Here comes the run.
Yeah, he's got it. He's going to pull out. He's going to box Burden in against his teammate. It's where you want to be up Mountain Straight as well, because it gives you the inside into Griffin's Bend, which is so critical. So
Here
Riddell
comes Burden.
from Merritt. Yeah, Burden. He's not going to be able to break deep enough to take the lead. He is. So Burden back through into the lead. This was a position he was in last race, and he managed to make it work from Skyline towards the elbow to hold on to the win.
And Patrick Harding was a lapped car that's in the mix there as well. I think he just came through for a repair, so he's just gotten back out on the racetrack after grabbing a repair. And here we go, across the top.
He, of all people, would know how blue flags work. So he lets Wall and Cuts go through in their great little battle for 4th and 5th place as well, which has actually been closing in on the leaders a little bit now that they're not thinking about lap speed. They're thinking purely in terms of track position. So there is Wall just ahead of Jason Cuts.
And Teddy McKenzie's just about caught the toe of that lapped car as well. So there's an opportunity for Sean McKenzie to actually see if he can try and tag onto the back end of these guys. The leaders are back. Yeah, it could still be a Jason Cuts victory. It's still a chance. It's not out yet. He's going to need a mega toe. He's going to need some assistance from Matthew Wall, and he's going to need chaos. And, well, if I know racing car drivers, and I know the Formula Vee Australia Series, chaos is never far away.
My heart rate would be 300 in Joshua Burden's position right now, because Merritt and Riddle are in the slipstream.
Dead in the water.
Australia's longest straight. That's the thing, is he knows they're going to get them. It's, can he fight back in the final corner? Can he force them to pass him early and then look to get back in and leapfrog? almost temporarily 3 wide. Merritt has the lead, but Burden might still have a trick up his sleeve. 3 Formula Vs in 3 Formula V lengths. Burden now looking to go round the outside for second. Makes things very good for Merritt, though, as Riddle and Burden cost each other time through the exit of the chase. John Merritt will lead them down into the final corner for the final time, the final race of the final round, and for him, the points leader, a championship on the line, and this is a championship drive to take the final win. John Merritt from Glenn Riddle from Joshua Burden.
Yeah, what a drive it was, and like I said, Racecraft, I think, just made the name up. It's really what it's all about. It's John Merritt's been the king of Racecraft just about right throughout the series, and Jason Cutts is going to come home in 4th. But I just don't think it's enough over Lee Partridge. I think that race number 1 issue from Jason Cutts is going to be the difference here. Trevor Hearn's off the road at the Harbour Royal Bridge and the run through down to Murray's Corner for the final time this season. Trevor Hearn is going to come down and across the line. That'll be the end of the motor race as well. What a final race of the season. And additionally,
no, he's done it again.
Oh, no.
Estebauer loops it in the final corner. Didn't he do that last race? Oh, Franz Estebauer is cursed in the final corner on final laps. Stephen Butcher's got damage.
Yeah.
Does that look like a little bit of damage, maybe? Oh, the right hand is all the way down.
Look. If you lean slightly to the right, nearly exactly that steering angle, he's actually got no steering damage whatsoever. The entire wheel's just tilted. That's the problem. Oh, he's got a wheel off the ground. Is that inside tire off the ground? I think it is.
Could be. I think the camber and the toe is wonky at every corner. He's got the front right is wearing a very different part of the tire than normal, but he will get it to the finish line ahead of Brendan Nealon, actually, who was the last car on the lead lap. So John Merritt, championship drive to take the win in the feature race at Mount Panorama. And Riddle Burden cuts in 4th. Matthew Wall, Sean McKenzie, Ray Oliver, Lee Partridge, Brody Watts, and Matthew Harriott as our top 10. Matthew Walker, and I believe we're going to check back in on him a little later, got the 11th place. Dean Hunt, Mick Fisher, Reese Gardner. That's a better result for our favourite West Aussie. Ben Breyer, Trevor Hearn, Alex. I'm going to get in trouble because there's a lot of them, but I'm allowed to show some favouritism maybe. Newton, Estebauer, Chapman, and Cam Edwards got 20th there, Scott.
Here we go. Oh, it's going to kick off. We're getting ready.
Oh, okay. Let's get through these results then, and then look at the chase. Tony Baker, Stephen Butcher, Brendan Nealon, Patrick Harding, Kyle Ridley, Phil Gardner, Liam Caplice. That sort of finishes, and they're pretty much retirements from there. Dylan Thomas, Andrew Gammo, Will Twining. Okay, here's our boy, Matthew Walker, and he's lining up down Conrod Straight. They're all lining up down Conrod Straight for an absolute iRacing Mount Panorama tradition, and that is to try to take the jump and let off a little bit of steam at the end of super challenging series and some super challenging races.
Here it comes.
Jay's going to try to find it.
Come on, Jay.
There we go.
There we go.
Here they come, looking for the jump in the runoff to make it over the fence. Oh, that hasn't worked. A few drivers look to have maybe made it. These Vs do struggle to get enough speed. Was that Estebauer with the front flip? I think Estebauer, it might have been, stuck the front flip there. Oh no, the jump's blocked. Matthew Walker comes across and blocks the jump.
I think that's actually helped rather than hindered.
Oh, it's an absolute tradition.
Yeah! Oh!
Nice. That could have been Edwards or one of his teammates.
See, ladies and gentlemen, look, a lot of people say that it's not a racing simulator. And I say to that, well, if it was a simulator, this would hurt. This would hurt a lot. But that's the benefit of it being a little bit of a game sometimes. You get to do fun, silly stuff like that. It just works.
Traditions. We love traditions. And that Bathurst jump is without doubt one of them. We've got lots of drivers to speak to. and we'll get you championship confirmation when we can. But I think,
I don't think it matters. I think the championship's confirmed.
well, some of the lot. I'm talking about the other positions inside of the top 10, but we can get John Merritt now and say, what a race, what a season, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, no, it was a good final round, and mate, always love Bathurst. So, and with these little beasts, there's no escaping that draft. So it's always going to be a good race in the last couple of laps.
You would have bit your tongue a lot of times, a lot of those races, a lot of heart in mouth moments all the way through.
Or as we said in the in our Discord, a lot of brown pant moments for sure.
Any memorable moments of the 3 races, other than obviously, capping it off with a win in grand style?
Oh, probably the couple of enjoyable moments. I think I passed. It might have been Ray Oliver over Skyline into the S's, and then my teammate Cedo, Glenn Riddell, was. We touched wheels up into turn 2, 1 point there, 3 wide with Lee Partridge. That was pretty exciting.
Well, I mean, congratulations on the championship. We know an incredible number of, Australian Formula V competitors from all the states competing here. It must mean a lot to put on a show in that kind of competition.
Oh yeah, it's mate, the competition was great, and you could see a lot of the real world competitors just got better all the way through the season. So, I mean, I haven't raced V's personally, done some real world stuff, but it was, mate, it was a wonderful season. So, all I can say is thanks to the competitors and those that made it an event every time out. So, really enjoyed it, thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's pretty proud of the end result.
Well, congratulations, and I'm sure there's plenty of people you'd want to thank.
My teammate, Paul's tuning, so he always brings the love with a strong engine, whether it be in the real world or otherwise. The Chuka Toyota and just all the Pulse tuning guys. So, mate, it's always an enjoyable evening and a bit of banter, and I think that's what the sim world's all about. Good to catch up with friends online and have a race or 3.
Not just a champion, but a race winner and a round winner as well.
And also thanks to Cam and Ray and everyone that helped put it together. To Jay, yourself, and Scott at SimSpeed for the broadcast. Mate, it was a great series. I do a number of series and definitely thoroughly enjoyed this. So.
Well done. Enjoy it and celebrate in whatever fashion you feel fit.
I've earned a CC and dry, I reckon.
Not a bad selection for the end of the race. Congratulations, John, mate.
Yeah, thanks, Scotty. Appreciate it.
We've got some other drivers to chat with, I reckon. Scott, who do you want to grab? I reckon
Matty Walker.
Josh. Oh, okay.
I want to talk to Matty Walker. We can talk to the podium, but most importantly, I want to talk to the man with the the very good crew chief, Matt.
There you go.
What's the bear's name, and what was his final words of advice for the last race before you went green?
His name is Hugfun, because Hug Fun is what is on the tag, so just made a name out of it. Advice was have fun, I guess. I think I achieved that. Oh yeah!
Yes, yeah. David Haynes has just turned his camera on.
Maybe I'll join the Zoom in a second if Jay wants to.
Yeah. We'll get Dave Haynes across into that. Most importantly, mate, it's been, I think the best part about the season has actually been tuning into your cameras just about every week, just to see what new features you've added to the background and what's going on in there. More importantly, World's Greatest Shave. Tell us a little bit about what's going on there, and how much is it to take it all off at the end?
So, I mean, is it bad to say that I was already planning on it? I've got a stepped plan. So if you can see, it is now red, and so is my beard. I don't know if that's coming through, and dyed my beard red as well. And I've got less hair than I had.
Oh my word! There you go. You can't see that under a headset.
No, Very
That's,
difficult.
that's actually quite nice. That actually suits you.
It's sort of an undercut mullet thing, so I've still got it rather long at the back. The third stage is at the Grand Prix. I'm going to have this haircut, but with a 3D printed Formula One car stuck to my head. If you can hear the printer in the background.
Yes, gotta love a man with a good sense of humor.
And then if I'll either fall in love with this and keep it, or take it all off after the Grand Prix. So if you want to give me money for either, if you want to give the World's Greatest Shave Leukemia Foundation money for me doing any of that silly shit, you've got the information.
At the top of the screen, QR codes in the top right corner, ladies and gentlemen, if you're watching along at home. Mate, in terms of the Formula Vee series, that has produced some amazing racing. I was sitting there going, Matty Walker's got this. He's on with a great shout there. So many different times tonight. But that's just racing, isn't it? Formula V's, they take something special, particularly in a field of this strength. Have you had fun? That's the most important part.
Oh, I've had a ball. I'm very glad these cars are strong. Especially in the first couple of rounds. But no, that was a great time in race 2. And I am now cursing myself for actually passing Jason into the cutting on that lap, because I know I was weak through the dipper. I have not sussed the dipper out, so I was just over braking it every lap to make sure that didn't happen. And then I was in front and I was like, well, I have to give it a crack now. And
yes, David Haynes' Bear is here to take over his commentating duties for the final section of the season here tonight. That's what we were just talking to. But I tell you what, the steering wheel that you've had on screen as well, Dave was noticing it looks like a 3D printed cutout that's been attached to the top end there as well.
Yes, so I thought, well, I'm doing Formula V, so I went and sussed out what the diameter of a Formula V wheel was, and printed one.
That's amazing. That's absolutely spectacular.
So
Unfortunately,
going to be back with this series, but I'm also doing the Formula board series with a different organization, and I will be printing a new one because they are like 20 mil bigger.
Gotta be to spec every time, doesn't it? That's it, mate. Finally, was there any sponsors or any shout outs that you want to give prior to the end of the season here?
No real sponsors, but I've had a box of neutrals Formula One podcast livery with random Easter eggs on it all season, so I might as well say box of neutrals Formula One podcast.
Congratulations, mate. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for being the man with the best camera right throughout the season, mate. If you ever show up to a commentary gigs covered by SimSpeed and you don't have that camera turned on, I will be disappointed with you. So you've started something now.
If you and also if you're at the Grand Prix in 2 weeks and see an idiot with red hair with a Formula One car stuck to their head, come up and say hi.
I wish I had tickets now, just for that.
Congratulations, I'll post photos in the Discord.
Congratulations, mate. Thank you very much for joining us. It's been a blast having you along for the ride.
No worries, have a good one.
All right, Dave, who have you got wrapped up for the next interview as well?
I think it's only fair that we speak to some of our race winners across the night, and in great fashion, our race 2 winner was Joshua Burden. Joins us now. Talk us through that one.
Yeah, it was pretty hectic. Race 2 and 3, really. Was trying not to lead on the last lap, but everyone was playing games. No one wanted to lead, so sort of went for it and tried to get a gap down the hill, but didn't get a big enough gap and had to settle for third.
In terms of things, it takes a lot of racecraft and raceability. Obviously, in race number 2, you recognise that the window was there to just sort of go for it. Was there anything that sort of teed you off? Because there was a few cars that were sort of trying to back the pack up and bunch the pack up at multiple stages throughout the night.
Yeah, I think you just got to sort of play each race how it sort of plays out. Third race, I was trying not to lead, but I was sort of, everyone was backing off, so I didn't really have much of an option. But yeah, race 2, when I was out in the front, I sort of knew I was a bit quicker down the hill, so I sort of went for it and played off in that race, but not quite in the last race.
In terms of things earlier on in the season, obviously not necessarily going to plan. What's it like putting a Formula 3 around Bathurst, because it's such a unique combination all the other cars, there's very little space, very little ability for overlap. But here, the door just opens everywhere. We found multiple drivers throughout the night who found exactly a Formula V's width to get down the inside and make it stick.
Yeah, I think earlier in the season, like for myself, probably had the potential to be up the front, but things didn't work out due to incidents and little bits and pieces. Whereas here, there's a lot more open throttle stuff. You can fit 3 cars wide around most of the track, so there's plenty of room for people to overtake. And surprisingly, it's probably only one of the cars that's pretty safe around Bathurst to overtake pretty much wherever. So, it was good fun.
So I just realised I've actually stolen your interview. You better take this one back over. Oh no, wait, this one was Dave's. Yeah, this is your interview, Dave.
Yeah. Anyway, congrats on that one, Josh Burton. Great championship from you, and sneaking a race win at Mount Panorama in the final round.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Just quick thanks to all the series sponsors: Formula Vee Australia, Lytech Systems, iRacing, Giant, Mandra. No doubt there's a couple I've forgotten, and thanks to you guys for putting on the broadcast every week.
Thanks so much.
Mate, bang up job. That's, I mean, I've stolen your interview now. It's only fair you steal my next one. I just forget, I got so wrapped up in that one. I was just all guns blazing. He was having a blast.
Yeah, we've got just one more hanging about. And it's Glenn Riddell who joins us. And an 11th, a 2nd, and a 2nd. You had some great views of the racing. Didn't quite come away with a top step at the end of it.
Yeah, I was trying to be patient tonight, actually. Let it play out and sort of wait for the last lap and use the slipstream and see what would happen. Keep my nose clean the rest of the racing, but unfortunately that first race I sort of got sent at the chase on the last lap, which was a bit unfortunate. So that put a spanner in the works, but other than that, it was a good night.
How'd the V go at Mount Panorama? I mean, there's a lot of uphill. Carl, it can be a little horsepower deficient. It was some of the most ridiculous slipstreaming we've seen between the concrete walls in places where you can't really pass.
Yeah, I was going to say it went really slowly, actually, for most parts. I mean, look, V's are all about slipstream anyway, really. So, you got to be a little bit careful across the top. I mean, there was quite a bit of side-by-side action, but it's a bit sketchy. Obviously, coming down through the S's into the dip is probably the worst part because these cars are really taily off throttle. So that was quite tricky. But the rest of it was just about line yourself up to get in the slipstream and do something with it when you get to the end of the straights.
How's the communication, the team games when it's yourself and a teammate and you're both going for the win?
Yeah, I mean, we've raced against each other a lot, and in these cars as well, in other series and that. So it's a matter of, obviously, number one, don't take each other out.
That's always the idea. It doesn't always go like that.
Nah, that's right. But it's all, like, I've got to run, or, like, I'm coming up your right-hand side. That's just to let them know. But at the end of the day, it's just, we try and just race. We're there to race, there to win. So, but obviously not take silly risks so that we end up in the wall, basically, or off the track.
It's a good plan, good strategy. We're gonna look at some of the championship points later on, but you're absolutely, in and amongst that top 10 all season long, and it's just a couple of guys pip you at the end.
Yeah, I couldn't do the last round at Sandown. Work commitments, so that sort of ruined it for the series. I think I was second in the points up until that point. So if I'd been able to do that round, had a good round, it would have been different. But so I'm not sure where I've ended up. But at the end of the day, I'll just do the sim racing for a bit of fun when I have time. So pretty much every time you hop in a V, and especially in this series with the amount of drivers and the format, it's always good fun. That's the main thing.
Well, hopefully tonight when you close your eyes, you'll dream of slipstreaming down Conrod Straight and be pleased with 2 podiums at Mount Panorama.
Yeah, that's it. Open wheelers, so if you get 2 podiums out of 3, you're not going to complain because it's very easy to touch wheels and lose a wheel at the same time with how close the racing is. So, no, it was a lot of fun, so I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Well, Scott, that's almost everyone. We can look now at the championship points and see John Merritt does come away with the inaugural Formula Vee Australia E-Series championship. But gosh, there were a lot of other stories inside of the top 10 there as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of drivers up and down that feed. I mean, that have had opportunity forwards, backwards, up and down different stages throughout the championship. But Trevor Hearn was a standout for me in the latter parts of that. We've definitely seen speed from Carl Ridley as well. At different stages throughout that, Alexander Newton's had some pace. You know, there's been a whole bunch of drivers right throughout the season. Yeah, sure, John Merritt will come away with the end result and things going his way, but there's been a lot of drivers that showed their wares here for me throughout the series. And congratulations to Lee Partridge and Jason Cutts on second and third.
Yeah, absolutely. That one came down to the wire, didn't it? And it was the consistency of results. 4th, 5th, and 8th for Lee Partridge that put him ahead of 18th, 4th, and 4th for Jason Cutts. That first race really just not helping his points total. And just like that, it feels like it just started. But Formula Vee Australia E-Series is over, and it has been some of the closest, most competitive racing we've seen. Formula V's in a nutshell. Thanks for joining us on SimSpeed TV. David Haynes, Scott Rankin, Jay Kennedy producing, and of course thanks to Southern Cross Esports, their administration of race control, and all of the partners who came on board to make it possible.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head to head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.